All right, we are live. Hey, Amy.
Hey, Danielle. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th of July. I hope you got to see some fireworks tonight.
I did. I did. Straight out of Orlando.
Yeah, nice. Nice. We set some off at our aunt and uncle's house tonight because every firework event has been canceled. So,
Same
but
here.
it was
Same
a
here.
perfect night though. It was fun. It was nice. I hope everyone down in the chat was able to enjoy their 4th and get to spend time with family and friends and enjoy the day.
Yay.
Mm.
So, tonight, Danielle usually introduces the live, but I think tonight I'm going to do that. And
Yeah.
I want to let you guys know that I had something prepared that I was going to read, but I have about 5 minutes ago crumpled it up and thrown it in the trash. So I'm going to be ad-libbing it, and I hope I get my point across. So there has been some. I'm sure everyone that is are in. Excuse me. I'm sure that everybody that participates in our Facebook groups have seen the post about other groups taking these documents that we're about to talk about tonight. They were watermarked and removing our watermarks and using them for themselves. The content of the documents is not our intellectual property. We understand that. But we did A, um, find about that, do enough research to find out that they even existed. B, took the time to do the proper paperwork to acquire them. And C, paid the money to acquire them. So they're ours. And at this point, we believe that we are the only people in possession of this document or these sets of documents. I want everybody to understand this is very humbling, and I don't want it to come off the wrong way. But it was a hard decision whether or not to pay for these documents. Not whether to pay, but if we could afford them. We used every single dollar in our PayPal account to get them. Our PayPal account is zeroed right now. Danielle and I both work full time. We both have children. We do this as a hobby, but we take it very seriously. And it is very insulting to have someone take what we worked for and paid for and use it as their own. If they had asked permission, if they had contacted us, if they had reposted with our watermark, it would be fine. But it's gone beyond, I can't even find a word for it. It's very disappointing and very hurtful. And on top of that, and Danielle will talk about this in a moment, there have been accusations that we acquired these illegally. We don't do anything on this channel illegally. Despite the rumors that you might hear, sometimes we don't respond to them because it's not worth it, or we would be dragging other people's names into these situations and that would re-victimize them. And so we opt not to do that. We just don't respond because we know what our truth is. And so all that being said, when you see these documents on other pages or whatever, you're going to be able to easily tell where the watermark has been lifted. Yes, that is something that people can do. Because of this, we will only be talking about these documents on YouTube. We'll have to do several installments in order to get them to you. There is a possibility that we will do a Patreon where you'll be able to look at them there, if that's something that you all are open to. We have always kind of avoided that. We are very discriminate about when we collect money or ask for money or anything like that. It's just not something we normally do on this channel. However, you know, in this instance, it is a possibility that that might be something that we discuss with you. Um, as far as the rest of it goes, we won't speak about it any further. It's out there. I hope you all understand how upsetting this was to us, and we are sorry that that we can't deliver things to you without other groups coming in and taking them and acting like they're their own. And there's a reason why we have, how many pages are in the document? 1,700 or so.
There's actually 1,771.
Right.
And to go through the document and pull out the individual pieces of it that go together is very time consuming. But we were doing that. We were tweeting pieces of the document to tell a story and paint this picture about what really happened in Lori Vallow's life and the truth, because there's been a lot of lies. It was painstaking to sit and look at 1,771 pages in front of your face. And then, you know, you got to screenshot them and crop them, and then you have to watermark them and you put them out there. And it's a lot of work. It is. And we do it because our hearts are in this. Right. We believe in following true crime. We have followed the Vallow case. We opened a group up actually on the Vallow case on December 24th that I ended up closing down because it got too out of hand. Because we don't do drama. Just, it's not our thing. And we do have a new group that's open and all of that. But I don't want it to come down to that again. I don't. And I think it's important that it's recognized that what we were doing was shedding light on things people had never seen before. And because there was a lack of integrity and respect that ruined that for a lot of people who want to see the truth.
Right. And on top of being, you know, we never called out anybody specifically. We know we know how they got leaked and who removed the watermarks. We know that. We're not going to, we're going to show our class and on our ass. We're not going to out anybody out on YouTube or Facebook, but we will address, and I know this is important to Danielle. In fact, even if you want to read the statement or not, or I can pull it up, or we can just talk about it. But somebody has made an accusation that we obtained these illegally. First of all, we have someone on our team who has been on a panel with us previously. She is amazing, and she's going to be here tonight. In order to get these, you had to know they even existed.
Right.
And if you'll notice in the press, nobody's acquired these that we know of or shared them. No other YouTube channel has acquired them or shared them. Christina actually found out that they existed and then found out how to legally obtain them. Mm-hmm. We are willing to show you our receipt for paying for them this evening. You know, whatever it takes. We are not going to have people talk about how this is family law and shouldn't be out there, and there's no way we could have gotten these legally. We're not going to tolerate those statements. We rarely respond to accusations, but this is just where we draw the line and we have boundaries. We're done.
Right. And actually, you know, I was going to show the receipt, and I have no problem showing it. I'll post it in our Facebook group. I'm not wasting the time to put it up on YouTube. I'm not, because that would require me getting into my drive and sharing my screen. I'll post it in the group though. Everybody can see it. The fact that somebody thinks that we have to prove ourselves to them is beyond me. Mm-hmm. We don't owe an explanation to anybody. We did it the legal way. We did it the proper way. We paid a lot of money for them. And I don't know who people think we are, but we really don't have the capability of hacking into some county's microfilm system, okay, and getting 1,771 pages out of a microfilm system for a
No,
court document that was,
no.
gosh, it started in '05. So we're talking 15 years ago, guys. Come on. If you don't have Facebook, I'll put the receipt in our community post.
Yeah.
I'm a
I
big
didn't
fan
get in
of,
my car and drive to Austin
yeah.
and Watergate the documents.
Oh
No.
gosh. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not a big fan of having to prove myself to people because I know who I am and I know what our
Right.
intentions are.
Right.
But whatever. I'll post the receipt. Don't need
Yeah.
the
It's just,
rumors.
yeah. So, with all that being said, is there anything else housekeeping wise we want to address? Same rules apply tonight as always. No talking about other creators, please.
Yes, no talking about other creators, no talking about other Facebook groups,
Mm-mm.
and everybody who actually reached out to us and showed us the documents that we had been tweeting. Because you've noticed now that I'm sure anybody has noticed that the documents have stopped coming because we've stopped posting them.
Right.
The documents without the watermarks, where the watermarks have been lifted. So, um, we just asked, please don't mention any Facebook groups, don't mention any creators, don't talk poorly about anybody, no drama in the chat. You are allowed, however, to talk bad about Lori and Chad because I don't really care what anybody says about them.
I
Um,
don't think you even have to try, do you?
yeah, yeah,
Really. I mean, if we went by that, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. This would be a very silent live. So,
yeah, yeah.
um, so with all
So
that being said, this is going to be a good live. We have a lot of stuff to share with you. Um, the parts that you all have seen, um, the response has been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this can't be true, this is amazing, like a revelation, like an insight into the case.
right.
I am only halfway through this document right now and my mind is blown, so we're very excited to share it with you.
Yeah, and I just want to make a note that it's not about the money. I
It's
think
not.
it's more about the disrespect, and then like when you're looking at it from this aspect, we took all the funds that we had, so then um, then this channel becomes for what would the word be, Amy? A debt to me at this point because
Right.
I'm now paid for streaming services out of my pocket. I'm now
Right.
paid for a website out of my pocket, an
Right.
email out of my pocket, a Dropbox out of
Right.
my pocket. So
Right.
that's where,
Last night we had to upgrade Adobe Creative so that we could work on the watermarks to
right,
make them,
right,
so this is not a profitable endeavor for us, and we've always been okay with that. That money has always been to just pay for expenses, but we spent it on these documents. It was a collective decision because we felt it was something that we really wanted to bring to you all. And we still stand behind that. It's just if you're going to post them in your other groups or on other platforms, at least say where you got them from because you didn't pay for them.
and you didn't do the legwork for them.
No,
And it's not a competition. I said this in
it's
our group.
not.
I have never removed a watermark. If there was information detrimental to this case and somebody else had it, we would post it in our group because you know what? It's not about us. It's not about our pride. It's about
No.
2 children who were murdered. And it's
And
about understanding Lori and her crazy ass mind and
mhm,
what she has done over decades.
right. And one of the ways that, just so you all understand, one of the ways that Danielle and I really bonded and became friends is over a particular case. And we're both fans of the podcast that covered it and the people behind it. And they used crowdsourcing for true crime. And we are both big proponents of that, of sharing information to spark good, intelligent discussion speculation, insight, etc. And so it's not a competition. It's not. It's just about not even giving you guys, because you guys are all so smart and you find things that we haven't seen too, but presenting the same way you guys share your ideas with us, we're sharing what we found with you. And there was a price tag on it, and it was worth it. It was worth it.
Yes.
So, but for somebody else to dismiss it and, kind of act like it's their own it's a hard pill to swallow. So.
Gina Holman asked, is the document true about assault from Charles? I saw it on your Twitter. Gina, the documents are official court documents. So, they're documented in court. Of course, none of us were there to see what happened physically, but I have to imagine that if they're documented in court and there was charges pressed, that there was some evidence to back that up, as well as, there were legal proceedings surrounding that assault charge or whatever the specific charge was. It involved domestic violence, and the charges were only dropped because Charles Vallow's ex-wife dropped the charges. So yes, the assaults are true, according to court documents. And I mean, the one that I have no doubt 100% is true is that Riley's, oh my gosh, sorry, Tylee Ryan. I'm all tongue twisted. I've been away all day, so I'm like, Tylee Ryan's guardian ad litem physically witnessed an altercation that Charles assaulted his attorney's wife after a court hearing, when Charles and I believe it said Mr. Wheeler. We have Christina waiting in the backstage. She's going to come on and talk with us. But so that was witnessed by a guardian ad litem who was, watching out for the best interest of Tylee. So,
and it happened after the proceeding, like in the parking lot.
I believe it happened in the courthouse.
It wasn't in the court. I thought it was
after they got out. There was other assaults in the parking lot with Charles snatching Tylee. That wasn't an assault. It wasn't classified as an assault, but snatching Tylee up by the arm. Alex tasing Joe Ryan. And he did that in front of Tylee at a visitation exchange. And that was another issue that was brought up with the guardian ad litem, because it caused Tylee severe emotional distress. So we have Christina backstage, so I'm going to bring her on. And
yay.
How did you, I know we had talked about this, Amy. Mm-hmm. Should I pull up the document and we just show little pieces at a time? I mean, if people would like to take the time and screenshot the little pieces at a time, please do that. Please take the time and piece it all together. And it'll take you probably a few weeks. You're welcome to do so, until we can figure out a solution and get them watermarked so that people cannot lift the watermark.
Right. I say put them up on the screen and we'll discuss them. I mean, okay. I told Danielle earlier, I am going to mute my mic and hang back and hang out with you guys in the chat. And if there's something that I want to say, I'll raise my hand and ask if I can talk.
All right. If you want, though, I'm going to bring Christina in, and I'm going to mute my mic while I pull up the document. So here comes Christina, guys. If you don't know her, she is part of our WTAF team. She is amazing. She works her butt off behind the scenes, helping us, and doing a lot of legwork, getting documents and researching, and she is amazing. So bring her on. I'm going to let Amy talk to her while I pull up the file that I have, because somebody said that they wouldn't believe it until they saw the file.
But we don't have to prove anything.
Yeah, and I just like to put this out there as well. It's not
excuse our snark. We're a little emotionally damaged.
Yeah. I mean, that's why Amy had to do the opening because mine would not have been as nice. I'm just I'm
That's not
I'm
true.
a little bitter over this. So, all right, I'm gonna bring Christina on
Okay,
and I'm gonna mute
wonderful.
myself.
Hey, Christina.
Hi.
Hi. So, how did you guys spend your 4th?
We spent it at home.
Yeah, we did too. So
It's
they're still shooting off fireworks now. I'm literally, I usually sit out on my back patio and I can't tonight, and I am in like a in like a little bunker room here. Everybody, Christina is like, she's just a little digger, and she has all kinds of tricks to get information, and I'm not bad tricks, good tricks. She really thinks outside the box, but she is our screenshot queen too. I don't know how do you keep track of all your screenshots?
I
I
really
need
don't know.
I need you to teach me a better workflow, because you're always like, I'll say like, oh, I know it happened 18 months ago, but there was this one thing and it was this girl and there was this thing, and you're like, oh, I got it. And 2 seconds later, she does. I don't know how she does it, but yeah, Christina's pretty incredible. So, Christina, do you want to tell everybody how you found out these documents were in existence, so they have a little bit of backstory before we, while Danielle pulls them up and before we start chatting?
Sure. I was digging through all kinds of different counties that we knew that Lori had lived in just to see if there was any type of records that we could get any kind of back history on. And
Right.
I finally found these, and because there was so many motions and the docket was 36 pages long. And I
Wow.
figured that would be the best place to start.
Yeah.
Because the divorce wasn't that long, the actual divorce between her and Joseph Ryan.
Right.
But the docket alone was 36 pages long.
Right.
And so when I first requested it, I did not realize it was going to be 1,771 pages.
Yeah, when she told me that she got the request back and how much it was, I was like, what? I've never seen anything like that before in a custody case in my life. And this was actually one of the most litigated cases within Travis County, Texas, in the Austin area. And what's crazy about it is I have also never seen 2 custody cases intertwine, meaning that Tylee's custody case going on between Lori and her ex-husband Joseph Ryan at some point became intertwined with Charles Vallow's custody case and his ex-wife Cheryl Wheeler. So it's really, really crazy. Anybody, I'm sure you can share my screen. I am not making it bigger because I'm not going to make it easier for the screenshotters. Maybe when I'm not bitter, I might be a little nicer, but this is how we're rolling tonight. So
I will
let me just show you up here. I'd like to point out that this is a file. See right there, and it's a PDF file. It was mentioned that it was a JPG / GIF file, which is not correct. So anybody who decided to inspect the screenshots I shared, you got that result because you were inspecting a screenshot and not the actual file. Just clearing that up real quick.
Can you show us where the exits are?
No, I'm just clearing it up. I should probably be the one muted tonight, really.
No. But you can't. I will be petty. Show them at the bottom where it says page 1 of
okay.
1,771 pages.
Right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. 1 of 1,771. So, we're going to do this the hard way until we're able to get them screenshotted properly, so that watermarked properly so that nobody can remove them. Or our other option is to go to Patreon, and not because we want to make money, But because we're not going to hand people documents that if they wanted to research and get themselves, they're more than welcome to. That's
Right.
just how it goes.
Right. Yeah. All right. I'm going to mute my mic. I'm going to let you ladies talk. Christina, so glad you're here. And you guys, Christina knows this case inside and out. And when I told you she's a screenshot queen, I bet you anything if Danielle were to like throw a fact out, she could tell you what page it's on in this document. So we're so lucky. So thank you. I know it's late, Christina. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'm outie for a little bit. All right. Bye.
All right, Christina, where do you want to start? Should we start at the top? Should we bounce around to the really interesting stuff? Does the chat have any suggestions? Okay. All right. So
just court documents, like word for word court documents.
Right. A lot of it is embedded in some of those court documents is some interesting facts and stuff like that. One thing I think is important to point out that we have all been led to believe up until we got these documents that Joseph Ryan adopted Lori's son, Colby.
Yes.
And I think we are in a collective agreement that that is not a fact. That is not truth. It appears that Colby was born Colby Cox, that Lori never took her second husband's last name. And so she was still Lori Cox when she had him, and she named him Colby Cox. When she married Joe Ryan, she changed Colby's last name to Ryan. And if Colby had legally been adopted by Joe Ryan, he would be part of this custody battle as well. You can see at the top, it only concerns Tylee. And there's multiple times throughout this document that Joe is actually referred to as Colby's stepfather. So, I mean, that's what you can take away from that. If you adopt a child, you legally assume guardianship and financial responsibility for that child, no matter if you divorce the parent or not. And there's also no document showing that Joe had any of his rights stripped to Colby or anything like that. Those don't exist. So it looks like there was no adoption and it was just a name change.
Colby wasn't listed in the divorce document either.
Correct. He was not listed in the divorce document. It was just Tylee. Other than that, I think we'll just go ahead and get started. Where do you think we should jump to in this wonderful 1,771 pages? As you can see, this also started, this was filed, September 22nd, 2006. This custody battle did not get nasty. I mean, there was little bumps in the road here and there, I think. But it did not get nasty until 6 months into Lori Vallow, Daybell, whatever name she's using these days, met and was with Charles Vallow. So
the accusations began for her to stop contact with Joe and Tylee. August 18th is when she filed that first notice.
Right.
And he didn't get to physically see her and visit with Tylee until August 5th of 2007, the same day that Alex attacked him.
Right. Yeah. She kept Tylee away from him. And then at the end of this, towards the end of this, she actually uprooted Tylee from Texas and moved her to Arizona.
And they didn't find out, Joe didn't find out until she filed a change of address with the courts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just knew she wasn't showing up to any of the therapy sessions.
Right. And she wasn't allowed to just uproot her daughter from one state to the next. So I don't know.
Why don't you give a general overview of what the document contains? Like maybe I know it's hard to give a summary, but like the highlights of it, and then go through in the order in which. Do you understand? You know what I'm saying? Maybe that would make it a little bit easier because they're asking questions. Otherwise, you're going to be skipping around all night.
Okay.
Which is fine, but I don't.
You might start with the accusations and how
Yes.
the verdict turned out.
Okay.
That's a good plan. Yeah.
All right. Do you know off the top of your head what page that's on, Christina?
I want to say around 150.
Okay.
I told you she's the screenshot queen.
I mean, I have the screenshots in my phone because there was so many pages. I got tired of trying to remember where it was at.
Right. No, I
Right.
understand. Yeah.
Okay. So 150, you said?
I think it's around there is where where it's the incident report that she called in.
Okay.
What's interesting about it is Joe stated in one of the court documents that he was supposed to have Tylee August 4th, 5th, and 6th, and Lori refused to let him have her, but she didn't file that report until August 7th.
Okay. Bear with me, guys. I'm sorry. This is not how we intended to show these documents. So
it's unfortunate. We'll figure out a way to get them to you guys. We will. So in the meantime, maybe you guys in the chat can start. I know there's been a couple questions. Let's see. Maui Girl wants to know, did she keep Tylee from Joe because he sexually abused Colby? Now, understand that the document is not necessarily going to answer these questions, but it could shed some light on them. Let's see.
did she keep Tylee because of the accusations from Colby?
Yeah. Did she keep Tylee from Joe because he, meaning Joe, sexually abused Colby?
Okay. So I would like to be very careful about accusing Joe of sexually abusing Colby. While those accusations were made, they failed to prosecute him for that. I forget the term that they actually used. Do you remember the term that they used, Christina?
It's a no bill.
A no bill, yeah. And if you're new to the show, you're going to hear huskies in the background. Sorry.
Yeah, they like to play this time of night.
Yeah.
Yes, Be Real says, according to social services, they thought Lori coached the children and he passed a lie detector. We had some private conversations today about how manipulative Lori is in all aspects of her life and the coaching of the children and how that affected them as they grew up, and you see inferences of that in this document. Yes.
Okay, so this isn't it, so it's a little farther than 150. Let me see.
C. Wired says, in reality, Lori was brainwashing the kids. I'm not even sure I'd use the word brainwashing, because what she did was she recreated a narrative. So maybe they witnessed a situation and she talked about it so much in the way that she wanted it remembered that the children adapted her story, which is coaching. And that's extremely dangerous with children.
And now,
yes,
if you go to page 66, that's the first affidavit Lori did, asking for the suspension of Tylee and Joe's visitation.
Okay.
and she talks about filing the report
Thank you.
or opening the investigation.
And so Belle Mason wants to know, was Alex ever deposed, or did he provide any testimony in regards to the custody of Tylee?
No.
Not that we're aware of.
Okay. All right.
I'm having a hard time understanding why Alex was even legally allowed to be around Tylee after Alex tased Joe at a child visitation exchange in front of Tylee. Tylee was emotionally affected to this on a level that makes your stomach hurt when you go back and you read what this child went through in the very early years of her life, and it continued. This court battle went on for years. I want to say was it like 3 years, something like that?
It started in 2006. August is when the actual battle began. And they finally came to an agreement, I want to say 2009 to 2010.
Okay.
Christina and I talked on the phone this afternoon, and we were talking about this quite extensively, this particular subject about coaching and Tylee. And one of the things that we were saying is I had a moment when I was reading the document the other night where I had to stop, and I'm not a big crier. It takes a lot for me to get to that point. I compartmentalize a lot. I had a moment where I did start crying for like a second. I stopped myself, but that's how much it impacted me. And the reason why is because I thought Tylee's life was just so sad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. And then on top of all the manipulation in her life and the evil that her mother, instilled upon her, and then the being critical of Tylee's looks and her body and her weight and all those other things, she had to hear comments from other family members that were, rah Lori cheerleaders that Tylee was just a brat and that Tylee had an attitude problem and things like that. And I just think about how much she must have really hurt. And that makes me so very sad for her.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking knowing the kind of life that she was forced to live that she didn't have to live.
No. And then on top of that, she had the blessing of having a little brother, but the burden of almost being his parent and caretaker and protector.
Right. And I think what has really, really, really gets me and is upsetting to me is that when you read these documents, Tylee should never have been in Lori's care.
No.
She should have been taken away.
Oh, yeah.
And if she had been taken away, she would be alive today. If poor Kay and Larry had been aware of all this, I guarantee they would have never let Lori Vallow adopt their grandson.
Right.
So it's hard to see all this and know that there were so many steps along the way that these kids just fell through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a definite missed opportunity to intervene and save a child.
The courts could have gave her a completely different life.
Right. They could have.
Yes.
So I'll read Lori's first complaint that she made. It begins with, "My name is Lori Ryan, aka Lori Vallow, and I am over the age of 18 years, of sound mind, and have personal knowledge of the facts stated herein. I am the mother and primary joint conservator of Tylee Ryan, age 3, and Colby Ryan, age 10. Joseph Ryan is not Colby Ryan's father and does not exercise visitation with him at present. Recently, in late July 2006, my daughter began expressing fear of her father and became resistant to going to his house. Since she is only 3, she cannot always articulate her feelings, but indicated her father is crashing into her and she does not want to visit. Previously, she had liked going to see her father. I have taken her to a play therapist to try to find out if anything happened that should be cause for concern. With no prompting from me after this behavior from my daughter began, my son then disclosed on or about August 6, 2006, that respondent had been inappropriate with him when we were still together and living in Hayes County, and had threatened to harm me if he ever told what happened. I have taken him to the Hayes County authorities to be interviewed. There is now an ongoing Child Protective Services investigation. I did make one of several reports and an indecency with a child investigation ongoing in Hayes County. I requested the possession be suspended between Tylee and her father until the criminal investigation is resolved, and that in the alternative, the court make orders that will protect the health and safety of the child. Signed August 18th, 2006, Lori Noreen Ryan. So that's where the first accusation comes in. And
the second one, I believe, is on page 76.
Okay. All right, we got to do it like this. So, Lori Vallow appeared in person before me today, stated under oath, my name is Lori Vallow. I am competent to make this affidavit. The facts stated in this affidavit are within my personal knowledge and are true and correct. I am the petitioner in this case. My child, Tylee Ashlyn Ryan, lives with me and my present husband at 1810 Intervale Drive, Austin, Texas, 78746. The court in Hayes County orally pronounced temporary orders, which provided that Mr. Ryan have only supervised by kids exchanged for off-site visitation. Joseph Ryan is under criminal investigation in Hayes County by the District Attorney's Office and a CPS investigation for indecency with a child. My 10-year-old has corroborated that he was also molested by Joseph Ryan. The Court of Hayes County ordered Joseph Ryan to have a psychosexual evaluation pending further orders of the court. According to his attorney, he was not going to make the psychosexual evaluation because of concerns regarding the criminal case. A copy of a proposed order signed by Amy Rodnick, then attorney for Lori Vallow, is attached in Exhibit A. According to the district clerk of Hayes County, this order has not been signed by the judge. In addition, in the last week, Mr. Ryan, my ex-husband, has harassed me at my place of work. Specifically, he embarked on a pattern of harassment which alarmed and frightened me and the entire workplace. He walked in the front entrance where I easily can be seen and made a threatening gesture with his hand and fingers like he was shooting a gun at me. A few minutes later, he drove by and pointed a metallic colored object at me and through his open car window and an open door in my salon. Both my customers and coworkers, as well as myself, became alarmed. Mr. Ryan has previously been warned by the police not to come to the salon or call the salon. The officer previously present was called, and he immediately reported by taking my statement and attempting to find my ex-husband. The policeman told me that he had already warned my ex-husband he could do something about it. In the past, he has threatened to kill me with a knife, chop me into little pieces, and put my remains in a dark cave. He also threatened his stepson, Colby, age 10, that he would kill him with a knife, which he actually showed him, and that he would disappear with Tylee. I am concerned that if he continues to be around me and Tylee, that he will continue this pattern of harassment. I am also concerned he is refusing to take the psychosexual evaluation as ordered by the previous judge. Even under supervised visitation provided by the Kids Exchange, I am concerned that he may be at very least a serious emotional threat to her. And since the visit may be off-site, I fear that he could be a threat to her health and safety. that was signed under oath on October 5th, 2006. And we're going to stop there for a minute because what's interesting about that is the claims that she makes against Joe are very, very reminiscent of things that we have seen play out in this case, such as Brandon Boudreaux being shot at, and she made a reference here that Joe drove by her work and pointed a silver object out the car window. And that's very, very similar to the situation that happened with Brandon, whereas a gun was pointed out the rear of the Jeep, I believe, at him while he was in his vehicle. She also makes reference about Joe taking off and disappearing with Tylee, which we know that Lori did. Lori did that in 2019. She took off to Hawaii when she was mad at Charles or whatever, when she was in the process of leaving him. She took off with Tylee to Hawaii for 59 days. And she then again took off with the kids at the end of August 2019 after Charles was dead. She took off and did not tell JJ's grandparents where he was. She didn't tell, I believe Colby didn't even know where she was, right?
Right.
And then she also makes the reference of Joe making a threat about chopping her up into little pieces, which I don't even want to, it's hard to even reference this, but we know that Tylee was dismembered.
Well,
go ahead.
2014, we know that when her and Charles moved to Hawaii, it was to keep Joe from seeing Tylee.
Right.
And then she moved to Arizona with her.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in. I'm just looking at chat for a second. I don't know what other page we should move to because it's an overwhelming amount of information, you guys. It's a lot.
Very hard to believe somebody actually lived these lives.
And a lot of the things that were said in these documents are things that we actually saw come to fruition, but on Lori's end,
right? Right. I just made a little post in the comment area that perhaps she was having prophecies.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Have dreams.
Yes.
And and to talk about that kind of bothers me because we previously shared this document. I'm not going to search through this file to find it in here. It's in here. Trust me, I didn't make it up. I didn't steal it, whatever, but it's in here. Lori shared in one of these documents, it was brought up that Joe had concerns about Lori because she believed that Tylee was Lori's sister Stacy reincarnated, okay? And she also Lori spoke about her dead lawyer coming to visit her in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Right.
And where I have an issue with that is, and that's where Lori's pattern of behavior.
Psychosexual notes.
Okay, it was in the psychosexual examic notes. When Lori made these statements, this is part of her pattern. She made these statements when she was with Charles Vallow. These are things that she expressed, and Charles was aware of Lori's beliefs. Okay, she was having visions back in 2006. These visions that we have heard of in 2018 because of Chad Daybell and all that stuff. Lori believed in that stuff and said some crazy stuff before Chad came in the picture. He's no saint.
Oh, yeah.
But where I have an issue is, and Charles is 100% a victim. He was killed. He accepted this behavior when he was with her. Right? Him and Lori both fought Joe. They made his life hell. And he
Oh,
accepted these visions and these statements that she made that would any normal person would be like, whoa, peace, I'm done. You're delusional, you're
right.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He accepted them, he stayed with her, and they did not become an issue for him until she was leaving him. So, you know, when she was leaving him and calling him Nick Schneider and all that stuff.
Within all those documents you're talking about, she also talked about how she had conversations with Stacy.
Yes.
Right.
And then she
Yes.
that Tylee was her reincarnated.
Yes. She definitely believed that Tylee was the reincarnated version of her dead sister. And I'm not throwing any shade at Charles whatsoever when it comes to that. I see a comment down there that says, you know, he was trying to manage Lori, he loved her and cared. I totally get it. I get it. But I think it's important that we know that this behavior from her was not new behavior.
Yeah.
This is
The
a
signs were
pattern of right. This is a pattern of behavior that Lori exhibited over a long period of time. And it seems that when she met somebody like Chad Daybell, it was like fire and
it
ice, fire
escalated.
and, you know, gasoline. It just, they don't mix. And
Exploded.
then,
Right. Well,
right.
she had somebody that somewhat shared her beliefs. And somebody made a comment earlier. I can't remember who. I did acknowledge it though. That do you think Lori got away with this because of her looks? And we've had conversations about this. Her looks are important, but Lori, there is a overall theme of sex, and I believe she used her sexuality to manipulate these
Mm-hmm.
men, and these men were okay with it because of what they got out of it and tend to look the other way or be love blind until she
Mm-hmm.
turned on them. And she has a pattern of turning on people and then starting over again. So I'm not going to put a label on her because I'm not qualified to, but she does have the love bombing pattern. And then when she gets what she wants out of something, or she sees an opportunity to get money or what have you, she turns on them. And that's when these men wake up. And
Right. Right. And not only does she turn on them, she then wants them out of her children's lives.
well, of course, because
Right.
they can't exist anymore because they are now in possession of the truth. And she
Right.
can't have that. So
Right.
most people who hold a label that some people might put on Lori would move, get new friends, abandon their old life, and start over again with their children. Lori, of course, did that. But at some point, I think you can see a pattern that she took elimination to another level with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She did. And you have to wonder. So this was a very, very contentious custody battle. It was nasty. I mean, you're talking probably between Lori's legal fees, Joe's legal fees, as well as all the therapy that they had to pay for and the exams, the psychological exams that they had to pay for, and you're probably talking close to $200,000.
Oh,
Because I know at one
definitely.
point, yeah, at one point Joe's legal fees alone were 55 grand. And then in the same respect, you had Charles and his ex-wife battling each other. So Charles had excessive legal fees too, I would imagine. Lawyers
Right.
aren't cheap. And when you go and you fight out in court over and over and over again, and you file
Mm-hmm.
new motion after new motion after new motion, that adds up.
It certainly does. And it's almost like, at least for me, I see like these little patterns everywhere. If I can't leave and take everything I want with me, including your money, then I will financially destroy you as revenge.
Right.
And that's exactly what
Um,
she did.
Yeah, and then you have to look at, okay, things that have happened. You look within this document and you see Charles and Joe not getting along, right? There's an email where Joe quotes Charles as saying, "When we hit you, you won't even see it coming." There's another email where Charles talks about eliminating Joe. And so you look at it like this. Joe dies, right?
Yes.
He dies. Nobody finds him for, what was it, like 2 weeks, Christina?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Nobody knew Joe was dead for 3 weeks because he had packed up and moved to Arizona to be a father to his daughter. Lori was the next of kin contact that they got in
Of course
touch
she
with.
was.
Right. The next of kin contact that she got in touch with. And we don't know if Joseph Ryan was murdered. We don't know that. He had an external autopsy only, and the coroner ruled that he died basically of heart disease. They did no internal examination on him. So, and then he was cremated. So when you look at this in the big picture and you say, so Joe was dead, and then when her and Charles split up, Charles ended up dead.
Right.
What did Charles know? What did Charles know? That he had to be dead, right? And then all of a sudden, Alex is dead. And I don't care if the coroner says that was natural causes. That's what he says. I have other beliefs on it. I think that there's something. I think it's still being investigated. That's my personal opinion. It's just funny that people who have dirt on Lori end up dead. Joe had a lot of dirt on her.
Right.
Joe fought like hell for his daughter. He's dead. Charles had a lot of dirt on her. He's dead. Alex had a lot of dirt on her. He's dead. You can only imagine Tylee had a lot of dirt on her too, right?
Sure. Tylee lived through all of it.
Right.
Yeah, she saw every, from the point where she could understand what was going on around her and recall it. Tylee was a liability.
This is a good question. Belle Mason said, that's what I'm curious as well. What was the status of the custody case when Joe died? Christina knows that answer.
At that time, we don't have those documents yet. I requested them, but we haven't gotten them yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I know that they started another custody battle after this one. The records we have end in Arizona because our records where the case was transferred to Arizona.
Right.
I know they started another battle and Joe fought, to get Tylee again. And when he was supposed to have visitation with her, that's when in 2014, that's when they took off to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
They came back supposedly around 2017, which was the year before Joe died.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard because every person that knows the truth
is dead.
Is dead besides Lori.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Most women that are like this will move away and start over. But Lori took it to a whole nother level.
Oh, yeah.
These people just disappeared. This is an interesting comment. So Janine Lewis says, sadly, that's probably why Tylee was called a zombie, because she knew so much. What infuriates me is they call what they believe religion. Whatever religion they are doing is the devil's work. She definitely manipulates her beliefs to justify her actions. I will agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Tylee, and that's another aspect is the Guardian at Lightum talks about Tylee's severe anxiety. We posted some of those documents. And how this custody battle was affecting Tylee and how seeing violence at visitation exchanges was affecting Tylee. At one point, Charles hired two people to drive vehicles and follow Joe Ryan when he picked Tylee up for visitation. And then it's just I don't have the words. I don't.
Well, of course she had anxiety too, because when you're young, you're building that trust with your parents. And when you're old enough to realize that you see mommy paint the walls blue, but mommy's telling everybody that the walls are green.
Right.
And it's not true. That's very confusing. And it's a common trait in children that are raised by parents that use covert manipulation and techniques. I'm really not going to say the word, but it's just, Lori was a monster, and it must have been very difficult because if Tylee knows the truth and mommy's saying other things, Tylee can't really tell her truth because she's got to be with mom, and mom's in control of her, and there's probably hell to pay.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. In one of
No.
the documents, she says she's telling what Lori told her to tell, and Lori walks in the room and she turns and says, "I told her, Mom."
Right. And that's how. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and another concerning thing is that Tylee had recurrent pancreatitis beginning at a very, very young age. And that is not common in small children.
No.
When you look it up and you see what causes acute pancreatitis, and I want to say the first time she got it, she was 5.
Yes, it was February of 2008 when she was diagnosed.
Right.
And had 2 hospitalizations.
Yes. If you look up what causes acute pancreatitis in small children, 2 of the causes are medications and trauma to the abdomen.
Speaking of medications, one of the documents states that she was very lethargic on one of her visits with Joe, and she was accused of over medicating her to make her that way during a visit.
Right.
Sorry, I'm replying to a comment.
Well, and then, anytime you open that door, you start thinking about how Tammy died,
right,
and other things. And you start, your mind goes places. Were these people poisoned? Was it, did she know enough to make something look like cardiac arrest? Or did she know enough to know? And what simple things could she, Lori is, she's so simple in some ways and so complicated in others.
Well, she's really a complete idiot, to be honest with you, because I can't stand the woman. I can't even stand looking at her, especially her jail pic. She looks like the Joker. But she's one of those people who thought she was so smart, but really she's just an idiot.
But in a lot of ways, though, she got away with a lot of this for a very, very long time. She is a master manipulator.
She had a lot of
100% a master manipulator, no doubt.
Even the people closest to her, the people in her family, it seems like she was super intimidating with them, or she had something over them where they still support her. And if they're not
Well,
supporting her,
they're crazy too.
well, yeah. Well,
No, I'm serious. Like,
but
they're
she has something to do with that because she's brought them into her mindset.
I mean, that's possible.
I mean,
Definitely. I don't know
from her dad. I mean, he's got a lot out there.
Good old Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, at one point in these documents, you guys, she used the excuse that her father was on his deathbed as a reason for, was it not sending Tylee to visitation, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this was back in like 2006 that she said this, and the guy's still kicking today. So, I mean, I don't know how she got away with this. Like, how do you claim your father's on his deathbed? And that's why your daughter's not allowed to see her father, but no proof has to be given that your dad's dying. And here we are 14, 15 years later. And
yeah.
the
Well,
dude's still alive.
Letitia's dad had died 10 years earlier and she called in work. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
know,
Apparently
it's
it happens.
maybe he was reincarnated by Lori. God. Oh,
Thank you, Yvette. Sorry. So let me just address this really quick. Tina 72 to 72. I replied to you, but I typed my reply to Yvette. So yes, you are welcome to share this link into your Facebook group. We don't care about that. If you had other questions about the documents, you can email us at wickedtruths@wtaf.net. I don't know what part of the document you guys want to move on to now. There's a lot in here.
you know, we can, it's up to you guys, but we can read the psychosexual report portion if you want.
Okay.
I don't mind moving in front of my computer and opening up the document so I can help you do that.
Okay.
The first examination report is, I think, on page 382.
Okay, let me go switch venues here. So I can do that.
Because there's quite a bit of information in the very first one, especially where they interviewed Lori.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure my computer's muted real quick.
Sorry, guys. It kicked me out of my document. 1 second.
And I'm opening mine. So this is, of course, it's not. I've had one of those nights where I open new chats and say, nobody chat in here. You all can chat in here. Like an idiot. I don't know why I do this today. Ay. Okay, let's see. My Gmail up. Sorry for the delay here.
Shannon M. asked, did they ever evaluate Lori? They did evaluate Lori, correct, Christina?
Yes, they say they did. It says in the documents in the docket that she did an evaluation, and that's why she was court mandated to see a therapist once a week.
Mm-hmm.
She eventually, doesn't go and states that she can't afford it to pay him. So Joseph Ryan offers to pay and does a contract with the court stating that he will pay him the $7,000 and something odd dollars that she owes. Just so that she, and then she moves out of Texas.
She also asked, it was denied, but this went to the Supreme Court, correct, for trial. And in their motion,
I know they had a jury trial.
Okay, they had a jury trial. And in the motions before the jury trial, she actually tried to suppress anything that would paint her in a negative light. She tried to have that stuff suppressed. She didn't win.
Like his first examination.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Mormon religion expert he wanted to bring in.
Yes, she tried to suppress that. Okay, so I'm going to try to get the documents pulled back
Okay.
up.
I'm on page 386, and are you talking about, let's see, that's the agreement regarding discovery. Let's see, temporary orders in suit to modify parent-child relationship.
It was 382 or 282 because I remember writing that down for a reason.
Okay, maybe it was 282 because the other one was like a fax transmission for like a they did a home visit and there was nobody home and the investigator left a card. So let me scroll back to that.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. I'm sorry I didn't have it up on my screen already. I should have done that before. It's just that these kind of reports are like the things that fill in some blanks and give you an understanding of, like, you know, just give new perspectives on what was going on. So I think it's important that, you know, we share those.
Yeah, that first examination are really eye-opening.
Very, very. And just the way some of the things are worded and the, you know, the responses, this isn't new behavior for Lori.
Right.
This is carefully curated and practiced tradecraft.
Yes. And this is, it goes back to 2006. We don't know what was happening before then.
Right. I mean, this is insane. Let's see. Okay. Yep, you're right. Okay, so I'm on page 282. Let's see. This is start. It starts before that. Okay. I'm on page 277. So this page is labeled, it starts with Exhibit A, and it lists the things that are within this document. So items 1 through 6, psychosexual analysis, Vivian Lewis affidavit, interim orders for this case, order on motion to clarify, Wheeler versus Vallow, respondent's husband, July 6, 2006 email, and July 26, 2006 email. And then it says, I, Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., hereby affirm that the documents included in this exhibit are, to the best of my knowledge and belief, true and correct. And they are signed by him, and then they are signed by the notary public. And this is, of course, in Travis County, and it is dated the 27th of July, 2007. So we go to the next page, and I'm so sorry I cannot share my screen with you. It's just one of the challenges of this. This is a page from the Orion Treatment Center. Vivian Lewis, BA. She's a licensed social worker, and it's marked confidential. And the title of it is Sex Offender Assessment with Family and Community Risk Assessment. And I will read you the following. Regarding Mr. Joseph Ryan, assessment and treatment history dates start through July 25th, 2007. Assessment report complete July 24th, 2007. 3 original copies provided to Mr. Tom Ware, serving as guardian ad litem, hereafter Mr. Ware, and as per the instructions of the Hays County, Texas Family Court's order. This examiner was not provided a photocopy of the court's order until July 20th, 2007. For months and repeatedly, this examiner had requested a copy of the Hays County and or other court's order. Mr. Ware did on a number of occasions attempt to provide a verbal memorial of the order a verbal memorial of the order in his efforts to be helpful and efficient regarding this particular matter. The newest attorney, Mr. Keith, I cannot say his last name, I think it's Taniguchi, who stands for the defense of the biological father. This examiner asked Mr. Taniguchi for a copy of the order on or about July 18th, 2007. Upon receipt of the original court's order, we received a signed copy of this order plus a second order with clear, literally step-by-step wishes made by the presiding judge. Apparently, this original Hays County order was not signed until Mr. Taniguchi, on or about July 20th, 2007, requested a copy. Additionally, the newest Hays County order was developed and prescribed on or about the same time Mr. Taniguchi's request was made by the biological father. So they're basically getting the runaround here, right, Christina?
Right.
Okay, so that's that. Then there's a portion that says examiner's note. This assessment cannot determine guilt or innocence of a person's behavior. This assessment cannot predict behavior. This assessment is but one tool available which may or may not be of assistance to professionals making decisions regarding the outcome of a given situation. This assessment is not meant for distribution, nor is it recommended for general reading. There's some irony there. This document is not recommended to be read to minors. This tool should only be read and or used by trained professionals directly involved in determination of the situation. Any other use should be strictly prohibited. Although this assessment is objective and may serve as useful aid to diagnostic or legal matters, the results cannot stand alone and must always be incorporated into larger forensic family systems picture. So then they list the assessment tools they're going to use. There's something called the ABLE assessment of sexual interests. They refer to it as ABLE. Multiphasic sexual inventory 2, hereafter referred to as MSI. The MMPI-2, I'm not aware of what that stands for, but I know that we have some people in our chat that do. So if you can help us out there, that would be wonderful. Specialized clinical interview, clinical observation and treatment setting, formal and informal. Review of records, specifically from Del Valle Independent School. Review of records, Orion Treatment Center, observation of Mr. Ryan with people at the center, observation consults from other professions at the center, a stranger literally to Mr. Ryan, but a client of the center who had a run into, and her informal report. And they list all the collateral documents that they have or whatever. So now starts the assessment. Let's see. Mr. Ryan was referred to the center by Mr. Tom Ware, and Mr. Ware's request backed up by the attorney team. Now, Mr. Ware, just so you all remember, is the guardian ad litem for Ty Lee. No guarantees or promises were made to Mr. Ryan by this examiner. The initial response by Mr. Ryan was that he had entered into the assessment voluntarily. Mr. Ryan asserted that he wanted his attorney to consent to any and all decisions. At this juncture, it is well to mention that just about 2 years ago, Mr. Ryan had the same request made of him. His estranged wife, Ms. Lori Vallow, accused him of sexual abuse, and he was in possession of pornography. There was a custody battle raging at that time. Therefore, he knew this examiner, the center, and the history of the examiner, and the center treating people fairly and with privacy and integrity. He had also, from this examiner's perspective, done his homework. Done his homework, and was feeling much more relaxed, informed, clear-headed, and at ease at the thought of taking such an assessment. This assessment will speak to the issues of the family systems. However, this assessment speaks primarily to the issues of Mr. Ryan and his daughter Ty Lee, specifically emotional, verbal, psychological, physical, and or sexual abuse. Other members of this family, including Ms. Lori Vallow and the half-sibling Colby, will be spoken of in order to make the family assessment clear and complete. Mr. Charles Vallow was not met in an interview or tested. Mention of him will be memorializations of communication to this examiner by others, primarily Mr. Ware. Most all of these conversations were witnessed by Ms. Lori Vallow. Conversations with Colby, likewise, were interviewed with the two children together in the same family meeting. The next section is test data. Mr. John Ryan. This is labeled that MMPI-2, so if anybody knows what that stands for, please let us know in the chat. The purpose of MMPI-2 include treatment objective assessment such as level of veracity, disclosure, personality issues. Mr. Ryan was given the MMPI-2 adult version. An attendant was available at all times for Mr. Ryan to assure his progress, answer questions, and guide him through the testing process. Mr. Ryan omitted no items. An evaluation of his testing finds that he produced acceptably reliable results as indicated by the test. His scores on the validity scales reflect mixed findings, but he scored within acceptable limits in general, which suggests that his testing may be considered valid and open for interpretation. The test failed to reveal any data supportive of the common results seen with pedophiles, stalkers, or violence towards children and or adults. In parentheses, it says rapists, serial rapists, stalkers of strangers. Mr. Ryan's test results failed to reveal issues regarding fake good presentation or of presentations of self in overly favorable light and or the like so often chronically seen elevated lie or correction scales. I'm very sorry, you guys. I don't know what that means. I'd have to look that up. The most recent research and just of the reader's information, historical research studies, 10 to 20-year-olds, they're citing a case, support that most commonly seen scores in the test results known for sex offenders usually or most often produce spikes on certain scales. These spikes are psychopathic deviant, paranoia, self-centered narcissistic. The relevant point, Mr. Ryan presented no elevations on any of these three scales. Later in this report, please refer to a summary. Therefore, Therefore, the results do not support the commonly seen sex offender patterns, nor do they support, or shall we say, complete an investigative puzzle of test results, histories, victims, possible false allegations, assessment contents. For example, hypothetically speaking, does this test support results supporting incest, child molestation, and or abuse via photography or the internet? No. So the test results further say there's 6 line items. He is not disclosing of having engaged in a sex act with any child, male or female. He is frightened and anxious about the safety of his daughter with the possibility of being around one or more males who may be sexually inappropriate or have sexual improprieties, for example, exposure or assault. He does appear to be confident or comfortable regarding age-appropriate social, sexual matters or encounters. In short, his interest in adult male sexual interests are considered normal. He has a normal sexual libido. There's no deviant behavior. He discloses no history of delinquent behavior or past criminal history, ruling out antisocial type interests and histories. He discloses no history of drug abuse and denies being an alcoholic. He has accurate knowledge about sexual anatomy and physiology. Again, oftentimes, incest fathers and pedophiles have little or no accurate knowledge of the adult female-male body. Then it says that he has no elevation on his test results, and overall he appears to be honest and attempting to be cooperating in these very intimate and sensitive testing materials. Again, unusual and very seldom seen with sex offenders. So it goes on to explain the clinical scale and all that other stuff. On page, let's see. I'm on page 281. It's titled The Clinical Interview. During the interview, Mr. Ryan appeared relaxed, focused, and cooperative. He was well-mannered with the examiner. He lacked the observable indicators of slick and of sociopath. Ms. Vallow had voiced to this examiner great concern on a number of occasions that her ex-husband would use charm and tricks to win the examiner's favor. This examiner has attempted to assure Ms. Vallow that after 32 years in this field, charm just doesn't seem to get very far. Nevertheless, her concerns and warnings were heeded. Thereby, my observations with Mr. Ryan were of the usual intensity, but as the examiner, there was allowance given for charm and good behaviors. Mr. Ryan's attention to the written and visual reaction time testing demonstrated that he worked studiously and asked relevant questions. After several questions and answers, he seemed to become more comfortable and worked without distraction. During the time required to take the tests, approximately 8 hours, Mr. Ryan took several breaks during the day and several days in between finishing the tests. The entire staff at Orion noted his manners, his respect of adults and children who were coming and going at the center, and his seemingly genuine desire to be compliant and polite. The clinical interview included a modified checklist, client needs profile, and biodata questionnaires developed for sexual deviant interests, risk assessment, and risk assessment interviews. During the interview, questions and dialogue were purposely repeated to assure accuracy and definition. Again, as the interview and testing process have proceeded, Mr. Ryan appeared and spoke with less anxiety and distrust of the process. His answers became more specific and lengthier. Mr. Ryan reports some anxiety, anger, and sleep disruption. He is physically healthy and reports that he is under no medication. He reports no suicide or homicide ideation. So there's another section of review of behaviors and activities that basically says the divorce happened about 2 years ago. They observed him in real settings. At no time was Mr. Ryan aggressive. He did verbalize great frustration during the past 4 years because of the accusations and the multiple investigations. But the next section provides a little bit more of, I hate saying juicy, but it is. But I think what you can gather from this is that Joe was put through the ringer, and Joe held his head high and took these tests he was not combative. He was extremely cooperative. And the whole time, the examiner mentions that Lori was very worried. She's like, oh, he's so charming. You're not going to get the real him because he's a charmer, or because he's slick, or because he's a sociopath. And in reality, it seems like she's talking about herself. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. She does a lot of
Projection.
She absolutely does. You can see it all over these documents.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody explained above, and I am going to repeat this comment because we're all adults on here, that the test that he was taking, it's actually a JA said is a test to help professionals to determine mental health issues. And then this specific test, Penny Sue shared that this is a lie detector test for basically your penis. They show you a bunch of photos that are not appealing photos.
Mm-hmm.
As
unless
she explained
you were a sexual deviant.
Correct. And that to check what excites you at each scene in the photo. So, and he underwent 2 of these tests.
This test was 8 hours long, and he took it over several days without being like, this is bullshit, or I can't believe this, or any of that. I mean, it's right here. I mean, they can't talk more highly of his attitude about this. And she's just all worried, like, well, he's going to fool you. He's extremely charming. He's a trickster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just so everybody knows, I did make a comment. When I pull the documents up, my computer freezes. That's why I had to leave.
Oh, okay.
Leave and come back and don't have them up. StreamYard does not like me sharing my screen for some reason.
Yeah, that's difficult. We will.
It's stressful.
Yeah.
So, but we will get the documents out, guys. We promise. They're coming. We'll find a way.
So there's in this next part, there's 11 questions. They're pretty quick.
Oh, okay. Madame Deficit said she works on those tests and has never heard of them showing pictures. They're generally multiple choice questionnaires. Okay.
Okay. So
So
question number 1, he was asked, is there a custody dispute? Yes, and there has been for nearly 4 years. The hysteria seems to repeatedly be connected to pornography. Again, she has an obsession with sexual topics, I guess. To date, no history of child pornography has been illuminated. The father who uses the pornography seems to be fairly open and honest regarding this interest and the need, like, for example, medicine storage, that pornography should be locked up and kept away from children. 93% of false sorry, I'm tongue-tied. 93% of false allegations have custody dispute being argued in a court of law. Number 2, is there a confederate, a single and consistent person who continues to make accusations of sexual abuse? The answer, yes. 3, does this confederate show signs or medical histories of histrionic, paranoia, fanaticism, and or borderline personality? Yes. Number 4, the most common confederates are Caucasian females, usually the mother, Caucasian maternal grandmothers, or Latinos. Yes, Lori Vallow falls under that category. Is there a situation between the mother and the alleged injured child that seems symbiotic or injurious? No. Are there professionals involved in the case who may have a predetermined notion of the facts of the case? Perhaps. Has the child repeatedly been interviewed? Yes. Does there appear to be a pattern of moving the child from professional to professional, or taking the child repeatedly to the same professional in an effort to get a statement that no one has heard but the confederate? Yes. Has a professional with forensic background interviewed the child and seen no reason for protection? Yes. Has the child made a statement to any skilled and specifically trained professional that he or she has not been sexually abused, and of great import made a statement to that professional that he or she is being coached? Yes. Does the confederate have a history of abuse unresolved? Perhaps. And I think those 11 questions are very eye-opening. They shed a lot of light on what's going on, because right here in number 10, has the child been coached? Yes.
yeah.
Does the mother have a history of abuse that's unresolved? Perhaps.
Mhm.
Is there a situation? Yeah, I mean, it's just.
So, I mean, you have to wonder how the courts requested these tests. These were, court-ordered tests, and these results are in here, and Lori is never once held accountable.
No, she's not. And when I read you the next part, it sheds even more light and reality onto the situation. We always speculate in our group, and we always talk about things, and I don't think that before this we spent a lot of time and detail on these particular relationships, because how would you know? But seeing this from a professional and filed through the court system, I'm not saying you can take everything as fact, but I think you can put a lot of weight on it. And so this next, I promised you it's only a paragraph. It's a long one, but it's a paragraph. So I'm on page 282. During an interview on March 23rd, 2007 with the mother of the child, with the mother and the child, and then it's written like a script. It says, Tylee. This examiner utilized a formal interview protocol. During that interview, Tylee was asked, who is Joe? Answer, He's my old daddy. My new daddy is Charles. The child was asked, has Joe ever hurt or injured you? No. Repeated her answer, no, and confirmed that no, Daddy Joe has not hurt her. The child was asked about the places on her body where her bathing suit fit or go. She recognized this area clearly and free of confusion. The examiner asked, has anyone bothered you in those areas, hurt you, or tickled you? Answer, no. The examiner asked, has anyone told you or made you come here today to tell me about Daddy Joe? Child's answer, yes. Examiner asked who? Child answered, Colby and Charles. End interview. This examiner wanted to stay away from repetitive questions. When the child made these statements, the mother's jaw dropped, eyes widened, and appeared shocked. She did not seem fearful that she was in trouble. Rather, she seemed in disbelief and shock. The mother, Ms. Vallow, has explained to me on many occasions that she speaks with her deceased sister and believes that Tylee is a reincarnation of her sister. Ms. Vallow is deeply religious and seems genuinely so. However, she has also explained that her last attorney, Mr. Ted Terry, has come to her instructing her to attend his funeral and explain to his ex-spouse that he loved her. She also mentions other ghost conversations and directives from her God. The mother has accused the father of forcing the child to drink a yellow drink, lemino. When talking to the father about treats and snacks, he mentions beverages such as Gatorade. There is a possibility that lemino and Gatorade are one and the same. That's a lot right there. That's a little treat for the mind. She talks to ghosts. Lori sees her child say, Colby and Charles made me come here, and Lori's realizing that, this isn't quite going the way she wants, and she's kind of shocked, but she's not shocked enough, like where she's like, oh no, I'm in trouble. It's just like, oh, recalculating, it's terrible. So let's see, March 23rd, 2007, that would mean Tylee was, 4 at the time? Isn't her birthday in September 2002?
Yes.
Yeah. So she was like 4.
September 24th.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know
what
what
they have to put to make her say those things.
Yeah. So after that, there is a list of summary and recommendations following this interview.
Do you want me to read some, Amy? I can do it.
You know what? I kind of need a bio break. That would be lovely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So the summary and recommendations. Sex offenders are challenging to identify and treat. Schwartz, Volume 3, 1999. The examiner has worked with the physically and sexually abusive male and female patient for 32 years, in and outpatient. Recommendations. A. Set out an immediate plan now, where the child may meet and understand that her real daddy is Joseph Ryan and Charles Vallow. Continue a brief period of counseling to help Mr. Ryan and his family move on through this reunification process. Instruct the biological mother to cease any and all communications and chats with the child about Daddy Joe being a molester. She should submit and successfully complete a complete psychiatric and a psychosexual examination. She should have supervised visits until this can be more clearly understood. C. Tylee is a very young child, but not that young. She needs to be with her father for long rehabilitative time to make up for the emotional trauma of this volatile and not so private periods of accusations against her father. She should have contact with her father's family. It goes on to diagnostic formulations. A biological father, no access to concerns based on the data collected so far. Biological mother, rule out historic and borderline issues. Rule out religious values that are bordering on fanaticism and the potential impact of 4 years of unverified complaints and investigations of child sexual abuse against this child. Rule out stepbrother, Colby, that should actually be half brother. Need for intense and thorough investigations of sexual abuse against him and by him against others. He may very well be the key to understanding the problems in this case. His bizarre statements about, his bizarre statements about anal assault, the multiple allegations with other little boys and him engaged in sexual abuse, and finally some very concerning statements by Tylee that he is telling her what to say about Mr. Ryan are of serious, flat, unbelievable, brings plenty reason for grave concern. This must be investigated by an experienced and well-respected male forensic professional. Lastly, Miss Vallow genuinely believes her child is in danger. However, her belief system is riddled with ghosts and seemingly fanatical religious dogma. Her belief that Mr. Terry, may he rest in peace, visits her at night borders on visual and auditory hallucinations. But this examiner is not an expert in her religion and wants to give her as much benefit of the doubt as possible, but not at the expense of this little girl's relationship with her father. At this time, Tylee doesn't even know Joseph Ryan is her father. This comes from the mother and most likely the new stepfather. She has lost touch with that belief system and the opinions of others until she finds someone who will agree that Tylee has been abused. Based on the data of this case and the experience of the examiner, the child Tylee Ryan should be reunited with her biological father at the earliest possible time. Now, today, at the very time of this reading, a trained and interested professional should follow this work to be of assistance to the child and the father, and to watch out for the safety of this child and her older half-brother. Respectfully submitted and signed by Vivian Lewis, a licensed medical social worker / ACP RSOTP clinical director at the Orion Treatment Center, LLC.
That's a lot. And I think maybe this is a good place to stop in the document tonight and take questions, because I don't know how you feel, Danielle and Christina, but I'm sitting here like, how did we end up where we are right now? These courts failed this child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think is there another part to this real quick though?
There is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
This
read
is
the
what I'm telling you while you're reading, just so you know, that the
Mhm.
people in the chat are like, this is what we want to hear.
Okay.
So you got everybody hanging now.
Okay.
So this is good.
All right. I'll read another page that is part of this. This again comes from the Orion Treatment Center, LLC, Vivian L. Lewis, who was a licensed social worker amongst many other things. She was qualified to give this test. She sent this to Tom Ware, who was previously the guardian at Lidum for Tylee, and that's a whole nother issue that we will discuss at another time. Just not with Tylee or anything with Lori not being honest or anything like that. It's just something that Lori did, and then Mr. Ware was no longer the guardian at Lidum. So The purpose of this letter is twofold. Upon reading the report that I typed regarding Mr. Joseph Ryan, I noted 3 typing errors that I believe are of important. They are as follows. Referring to the sex offender assessment with family and community risk assessments dated July 25th, 2007, on page 2 of 5 in bold script in the middle of that page of the document reads, John Ryan, this is an error. That line should read, Mr. Joseph Ryan. On page 3 of 6 in the last paragraph, on the paragraph sentence reads, Mr. Ryan appears to have low indicators risk. That has one error. The sentence should read, Mr. Ryan appears to have no to low indicators interest. The change is the word no to between no and low. So they went from saying he was low risk to saying that he was no to low risk. Page 6 of 6 in section A, the sentence reads that her real daddy is Joseph Ryan and Charles Vallow. This is an error. The sentence should read that her real daddy is Joseph Ryan, not Charles Vallow. The word and should be deleted and replaced with not. Secondly, the purpose of this letter is to inform the court via the guardian ad litem as the officer of the court that the change is how the report is delivered to the parties has been modified by a Rule 11. With knowledge and understanding available to me today, and based on 32 years of experience, I am gravely concerned regarding the reaction of the recommendations in this report by the mother. Miss Lori Vallow, I am deeply concerned and consider the situation one to be labeled as imminent danger of a flight risk. As well, Miss Vallow is a devout Mormon who has mentioned to me that death would be an option before giving Tylee to her father, Mr. Joseph Ryan, even for a visit. These are real and serious concerns. I have no way of knowing if Miss Vallow was serious, but these are a close repeat of her statement. This is a close repeat of her statement to me. As well, my opinion, again, based on my experience and my knowledge on the case, that believing that Miss Vallow would bring the child to the courthouse or to surrender the child to Mr. Ryan are most likely not going to happen. I might, with respect, recommend that perhaps a constable and a social worker or Mr. Ware, who she has met, go to the home and get the child. The imminent danger potential of flight or worse, combined with the mother being so adamant that Tylee is being hurt by her father, make the likelihood of her cooperative delivery of this child most unlikely. Should the court do this or some other option for protection of the child, the court might also consider a simple pickup, taking time only to allow Tylee to get her lovies. That must be referring to like her toys, stuffed animals, something like that. Time to pack luggage and the like will only add to the tension of the moment. I respect the court's decision and will, of course, assist as instructed, as well as understand that the court has a grander view of the case and find this recommendation unnecessary. In closing, the parties are aware that I have been out with medical struggles since January or February 2007. I most sincerely appreciate your prayers and patience. With best regards, and respectfully submitted, Vivian Lewis. I, Vivian Lewis, do swear that this document is a true description of my concerns in the Ryan Vallow case. I hereby sign and swear before a notary on July 27th, 2007 in Austin, Travis County, Texas, that this information to be accurate and true. Document hand delivered to Mr. Ware on this date. Sorry for my slip ups on words because I'm reading it from my phone and it's small. So
it's hard to read aloud from a screen anyway. And I will tell you guys, when you see this document, we stumble on sentences sometimes because one, these documents are old and the typeface is kind of smooshed together, even when it's enlarged. So sometimes it's easy for your brain to mix up the words. The other thing is there's a lot of typos and you catch them while you're reading it
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to correct it and what have you.
Yeah.
Really quickly, do you want to explain to them? Can you give them a quick synopsis about? Oh my God!
Fire? Was that a
Sorry.
firework?
Yes, I'm not in the middle of a crime scene. I promise. I'm live from WTAF. Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but anyway, someone shot at Gordo.
Oh gosh.
Oh, may he rest in peace. Anyway, can we give them a brief explanation of what happened with Tom Ware, the guardian ad litem, and then maybe take some questions and wrap that up for the night?
Yes. Let me find the page where that seemed really petty, the Tom Ware stuff. Did you think so,
Yeah.
Christina?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to explain it? What the breakdown of what happened between Tom Ware and it was Lori, basically. Let me scroll through here, guys, and find it.
The past few days, and I've read it so many times.
Yeah.
That I know it, but I've read so much I don't remember exactly. I know there was a recorded conversation with his attorney.
Yeah, I'll scroll and read it. Amy, I don't know if you want to start taking questions until I find it. Or if anybody wants to drop questions down there. Oh, is Annie down in the chat?
I was talking and my mic wasn't on, so my apologies. I'm discombobulated. That firework made me jump out of my chair. If you all want to start asking questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them, or any notable things you want to discuss that we just read to you. For me, I had a very, I don't know how to describe it, but like a powerful reaction to the response of the professionals in this, because, they were very concerned about Lori's religious beliefs, things like that. And they put it together in a plan. And I just don't know where things fell apart. We'll read about that later. But, what are y'all's thoughts on this?
They were way more concerned about her than they were about Joe being a danger to Tylee.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And isn't it sad that they had to say we need to these are in my words, okay, but they had to re-educate this child on who her father was.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad.
With all he had for her, and she didn't even know who he was at the time.
It's horrible. I'm still scrolling to find this about Thomas Ware.
Yeah.
Basically, what I took it to be is that assessment of Joe is not favorable to Lori. Okay.
No.
And Lori tried to discredit every person that was not in her favor in this court battle. Her lawyer was just a beast. And then it got so bad he ended up resigning from the case, probably after Charles assaulted his wife.
Yes.
Because Charles attacked Lori's the wife of Lori's lawyer in the courthouse. And then her bulldog lawyer was no longer her lawyer. So
she had several attorneys throughout it all. The first one died.
The first one died and visited her at night
in her dreams. Yeah, she was getting free legal services
from it wasn't in her dreams. Mm-mm. This was while she was awake at night. She saw him. he came and talked to her because she's a delusional. I
Right.
almost dropped an F-bomb.
We're not that kind of F-bomb.
It does wonder.
Yeah.
It does wonder if Tylee ever knew the extent of Joe's love for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sad because at the end of these documents, he basically gave Lori everything she wanted, and he packed up and moved to Arizona to still be by his daughter and fight for her there too.
Mhm.
So it's just sad. He went through.
And she might have never known this.
And he was still so sweet and kind towards Lori, even after everything she put him through and took away from him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He thanked her for the way she was raising Tylee and the amazing person Tylee was.
He even went as far as, I believe Joe at one point, he wasn't on board with Lori's Mormon beliefs after they split. But he even went as far as to make sure that Tylee was reading her Book of Mormon when she was in his care. I mean, he did everything that Lori wanted.
He was fostering her religious beliefs on, yes.
And at one point, he was also paying $2,500 a month in child support for one child.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Lori, and we're going to get into Colby's biological father and all of that this week as well. But I see it like this. I truly think she used her kids as cash cows on top of other things. These kids were a paycheck for her. There's a part of this document where Lori did her, how if anybody's been through a divorce or custody issues or anything like that, both parents have to fill out a financial summary. Lori's financial summary had her with making $160 a month. But she self-admitted
and $1,000 car payment.
And $1,000 car payment. Okay. And she self-admittedly talked about her work and her job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I was at my work. My clients saw it. Yeah.
Why didn't they subpoena her financial records? Because it could have easily been proven that she was making a lot more than $160 a month.
Right.
Oh.
So Glowing Ember wants to know what. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
At one point, he refuses to give the audit of where Joe was caught up on his child support payments.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He just flat out refuses.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Glowing Ember wants to know what happened between Charles and the attorney's wife.
So that was. Let me find it.
And in the meantime, I will I will read what's on my screen right now. Christy Thomas says, I am a 6th generation LDS I can't talk, and can tell you with absolute certainty that the Mormon Church does not believe in reincarnation, dreaming of dead people coming to them, not pretty much anything Lori says. And, that's important because we're just really not going to get into the deep dive of religion, but we understand that Lori thought she was Mormon, but she is truly an offshoot and unrecognized. She is not your set in stone LDS person. So
the attack on the attorney's wife happened August 22nd, 2007, just a couple of weeks after Alex attacked Joe, and it was his first visit with Tylee in a year.
Good grief.
It happened in a courthouse right after a court hearing where Charles was witnessed verbally attacking, and it says Mr. Wheeler, but I don't know if it means Mr. Wheeler or Mrs. Wheeler. Because there's some
I do think it means Mr. Wheeler, because Mr. Wheeler is referred to several times within the documents, in other places. I think it was Cheryl's new husband who was with her
There's
in
also
court.
a Brian Wheeler,
I don't know. There's a lot of names.
and there are, and some of them are similar, so it's hard to tell which one they're talking about.
Right.
Can we talk about this real quick? This is, and I'm not making fun of the Mormon religion in any way, shape, or form. I am making fun of Lori and Chad, okay? Madame Deficit said she went against so many of the LDS principles. Yes, she did. She even steeled herself to Chad in the temple while they were still married to others. Do you know who their witness was? Tell them who the witness was, Christina. This is my favorite part of this because it's mind-blowing.
It was Angel Maroney. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but Angel Maroney that sealed Chad and Lori, and Jesus Christ was their witness.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these two people who were married to other people used their temple cards
Yes.
to get into the temple to do their own sealing.
Good grief.
Yes.
I think I remember from an old life. We're gonna have to look it up. I think it's Moroni. I think that's how you say
Is that
it.
how you say
Okay.
it? I don't know how. Me and Christina
remember-
have talked about that. We don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
I actually have a Book of Mormon here that I've slowly been reading because I want to understand it. Not that I believe that Lori was using Mormon principles, but because I want to understand the religion and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and how different her views were from what, they should classically be if you're in that religion. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to.
D-Star says Moroni. Like moron and then I, like eyeball. Moroni.
Oh, that's how I said it before, and I thought it was offensive to them.
Yes.
Oh.
Moroni. They're all saying that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jason Mao dressed up, I believe. Like, what do you guys say it's pronounced? Moroni?
Like
Right?
Moroni. Yeah.
Like moron eye. Moron
Right.
eye. Okay.
Mhm.
So Jason Mao dressed up as Moroni or whatever this angel's name is to seal Chad and Lori in the temple, and Jesus Christ was their witness while they were married to other people.
Bell Mason says that's the same prophet. I think he was a prophet that Chad claimed to be in a past life. Of course, Chad claimed that.
Yeah, Lori claimed she was married to him too, didn't she?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, I'm getting to these where documents. I promise. There's so much scrolling that.
I mean, the way I understood the Ware situation was the Vivian Lewis had been sick, and she hadn't turned her report in the timely manner that he thought she should. So he tried to discredit her because it didn't paint Lori in the kind of light they wanted her in.
Mm-hmm.
And it made Joseph look more sane than her, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to make a deal with her attorney that they would have her report discredited to help Lori. Now, what the backdoor deal was going to be, I never really understood that part.
Right.
Oh,
So
why
he
go ahead.
was biased. So Tom Ware was biased. He fell under Lori's charm and wanted to help her by manipulating reports.
Is that how you understood it, Christina?
That's the way I understood it. Was for some reason his attorney contacted her attorney wanting to make a deal, and that she was going to offer this deal to Mr. Ware, and that he would have Vivian Lewis's report thrown out, and that she wasn't herself, and something was wrong with her, and that she wasn't doing her job, basically just trying to say that she didn't know what she was doing anymore, is the way I understood it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was said because they didn't want the courts to take Vivian Lewis's recommendations, basically to take Tylee away from Lori.
Right, because anybody that was actually going to pay attention would have, because she had serious concerns about Lori being her parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vivian Lewis wanted Tylee pulled out of that home to the point that she only wanted Tylee to grab a few of her loveys, stuffed animals, whatever, and go and not even worry about getting the child's clothes and other belongings.
Right.
They just wanted to
And-
get her out of there because she was that concerned about Tylee, and she knew that Lori would never willingly hand Tylee over.
I mean, she already, made the comment to her, that death would be better.
Right.
That is
Right.
extremely disturbing.
And that the courts didn't act on that is very concerning to me.
It is.
Yes, that's highly concerning. And sitting here at the stage today that this case, the Lori Daybell, Vallow, Ryan, LaGoya, Cox saga is in.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to see something else.
No, I'm like all tongue-tied tonight. I got all her name. I can say her name in the full order. I'll say it in the full order. Lori, Cox, LaGoya, Ryan, Vallow, Daybell. That's her full name.
Sylvester McBee.
With all of her husbands. Sitting here today and her children are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
As any family member of Tylee or JJ, I think there is a serious chance that there's a hell of a lawsuit here.
Oh, yeah.
With both Travis County and Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody needs to be held accountable for this. There also needs to be a change in adoption laws, especially when it comes to kinship adoption laws.
Yes.
Because we all know how much Kay and Larry love JJ. And I would bet my life on it. Had they known all this and they had seen these reports, they would have never, ever allowed Lori to adopt JJ. And had that adoption been a typical, regular, adoption between two parties that don't know each other and there's no family kinship adoption, Lori would have never been legally allowed to adopt a child.
No.
Never.
And I'll even go further on that. I think if they had seen these documents and known these things, they would have fought for Tylee too.
Right. Oh, I forgot Noreen. And actually, yeah, we don't have the first name.
Noreen's her middle name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we also don't have her first husband's name.
No.
Last name. So she's got an extra last name in there too somewhere.
Yeah. Christina was telling me today that her first husband, the in-laws paid for the divorce. They were like, we just want this over with. So here you go. We'll pay for it. Nothing's standing in your way, son. Keep walking.
I truly believe that her first two husbands, knowing very little about them, I think they ran for the hills, including Colby's dad.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was like, I got to get the hell away from this woman. She's nuts. And he just went on with his life and did his own thing. And, we don't know the whole situation there, so I don't want to speculate it on a lot. But I have to believe that two of her ex-husbands are alive because they got away from her.
Yes. I want to read a comment here because I want to respond to it. Human Animal wrote, for all intents and purposes, they seem like a good match superficially. We can't blame Kay and Larry from way back then. They wanted JJ for sure, not their fault. Nobody's blaming Kay and Larry. Let's be very, very clear here.
Yes.
We're saying they didn't have a global picture. They didn't know what was going on. What we were saying is we believe had they had access to this information, things might have turned out differently. If the courts had been better advocates, the guardian ad litems had stood up more for these kids and pushed this, we wouldn't be where we are here today. But nobody's blaming Kay and Larry. I don't want that
I
even be
will
a question.
right, and I will say this: going through the paperwork, the guardian ad litems did stand up for Tylee. They did. They did what they were supposed to. It was the court system that didn't listen.
Right.
It was the judges that didn't listen. And again, no way was I was not, I would never blame Kay and Larry. I was saying if they had known about this, okay? And the way that they would have known about this is if Tylee would have been taken away from Lori.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But she wasn't because the court system failed Tylee. They failed Tylee and they failed Joe.
Right. Okay. That poster is saying Human Animal is saying that she didn't mean it as she said it's things that others have been saying elsewhere. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I would never blame them. I think that I'm actually scared for Kay and Larry to find out all this information because it's hard for us to read it.
Oh yeah.
Well,
And
it's just unbelievable
right.
that that I mean, you have everything but like video.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's not much more that you could have. So
Right. Right. And Manda made a good point that it goes along with Melanie P's father taking her away from the Cox family when she was young after her mother died. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, Stacy had a lot of concerning things going on with her, you know,
Oh,
where she wouldn't let Melanie eat foods and Stacy wouldn't eat foods and Stacy was obsessed with germs and hold on one second. It's just there's a lot of concerning things there. And another thing that was interesting is that Melanie. So when Lori left Joe, when she had initially left Joe, she stated in these documents it was because she got on his computer and found porn. So she decided to pack up her kids and leave, okay? Because she thought he was gay. It's very interesting that Melanie Boudreau one day decided that she thought her husband Brandon was gay and all of a sudden she wanted a divorce. It's like Melanie took a lot of cues off of her aunt.
Mm-hmm. And the laptop was also brought up when she left him.
Yes.
She accused him of hacking into Lori's laptop and going through it.
Right. Right. So, with that said, there's been. Okay, so Lori's first husband was Nelson Yanes. The examiner did say they suspected Lori may have been abused herself. That's a question I asked last night. I did question that because you have to wonder where all of this sexual reference comes from.
Yeah. We've talked about that a few times.
mm-hmm. Well, and they even mention it in the questionnaire. Does she have some unresolved issues with that? And the answer by the professional was yes, she does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does. So I think that's all we're going to go over tonight. We are going to definitely put together more lives this week on this case and go over more documents individually.
And we're at a good point. We will pick up probably somewhere around where we left off, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
And we'll get page together.
yeah.
Yeah, we will. We will. We are gonna release the file. We just gotta figure out how we're gonna do it and all of that good stuff. And we will be live tomorrow evening, I believe at 9:30 regarding the Taylor McAllister case. That's another case we're discussing. You guys, I can't talk tonight. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You've been to a lot of social events and everything else, and had all that pressure on you to make chit chat and talk, and then we're reading documents off a screen, and there's anxiety about this all thing. I mean, give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. You're doing a great job. You really are.
Sweet. Thank you.
Belle Mason says we should have a live for every person in this dark web. Well, we intend on reading the document in its entirety, with maybe the exception of you'll eventually see everything. Obviously, we're not going to read like the motion cover pages or the facts cover sheets, and there are some of those in there. So, but as we discussed, as we will discuss all the players in this scenario. So not to worry, there's plenty to discuss. Plenty.
Yes, there is. So if anybody has any questions about the documents, you're welcome to email us. Somebody had asked me earlier. It's wickedtruths@WTAF.net. We are on Twitter. So
we're on Instagram. Yeah, we're all over the place. We're getting adult like here. Oh dear.
All right, guys. Thank you to our mods. We greatly appreciate you as always. And to the people who sent PayPals, thank you so much. That's very kind of you. And we greatly appreciate it. I don't know what day we will be live this week on this case, but we will get it up and scheduled and all that good stuff because we're going to keep talking about it. Do you guys have anything else you want to say?
I just wanted to thank Christina for being with us tonight.
Yeah.
It's deeply appreciated. So, and for discovering that these documents existed. So,
yeah. We also have more requests out, you guys, for other documents that we're waiting to get back. Hopefully Monday. We'll have some more.
Yes, several requests.
Yes. So if you want to, maybe whisper in a little birdie's ear out there to not remove our watermarks. We have no problem sharing stuff. We don't. But if we pay for stuff, we're going to watermark it. We have that right.
Yep.
So
thank you everybody for joining us tonight, for staying up late on July 4th. For those of you in the U.S., happy Independence Day. And I think that's a wrap for me anyway.
Yep, it's a wrap for me too. Happy 4th of July, everybody. I hope you guys had a great night. Thanks for coming on here. And we will be back this week with more stuff about Lori Vallow. And again, thank you to all of our mods. You guys are all amazing. We love you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Our bomb squad.
Yes, bomb squad. Have a good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.